Thank you so much, David, and it's wonderful to see you all here. Thank you for coming. Um, much love to all of you, and appreciate your kindness. And I will start this imagery, beauty, and justice feature. This first piece is called When the Desert Blooms. On a day when the desert blooms royal, when the mother tongue plants lick the soil, when the clouds rise out of ant mounds, hard as concrete, light as grace. On a day when you walk the red path, when the flower nectar yellows the sky, when the leaf and blade lilac the land, when the quivered trees stand soft as 2,000 years of rain. On a day when you see the immutable soul of flesh and blood, animal and man, walk the sound of beauty, brave the pain of limb. On this day will the earth spread its apron of effervescent life in rainbow colors, ecstatic and pure, to heal your weak soul from a deathly life, to raise your heart up like a bold lily on the barren hill. Several of these pieces tonight were inspired when I visited my son in South Africa. And that was one. Here's another. This is called Epiphany. Each bush and bird is a prayer. The feather, the claw, a surprise. The leaf, the bud, an answer. The ridge across the sky is a chanting wall. The cloud pattern, a repeated mantra. The breath of wind on nape, a kiss. The chanting builds itself into a fortress, faces off the all. No questions remain when love is revealed as mercy. The next piece is called Children. You will gather children, those you seeded and not, from the fields and cities, from the very air. You will gather them because it is predestined to meet them and share. Love is a commodity in great demand. Attention is a precursor to giving a hand. Be not timid, be bold, be generous. Walk the road knowing the paths will connect. From the east and west, the north and south, they'll arrive with questions, with avenues for advice, with grief and joy. They'll arrive from all continents. They'll arrive with contests and baskets. They'll arrive with a boat for the future. There may not be a place for you on board, but there will be space for your spirit, your offering to those who sail. The next piece is called headlights, and this is European. When I was young, it stabbed me to think of young men dying as soldiers, this obscene duty. But the truth of the world mingled in. I stepped back. When Ukraine was attacked, one night I found myself walking in the dark in a European city. First, I recoiled from some drunken men. Then I saw the young, unhelmed, unhated, and unhating men about, heading home from bars and football, some jolly drunk, some not. I saw their naked, fragile heads. I reached out, stretching my enlarging hands over their innocent scalps, gathered their mothers in my skirts, and cried out to the heavens, "No!" Then I sidestepped to avoid the tipsy lurch of one, hurried to the parking garage, and drove home without headlights. This next piece was inspired because of various wars. I've been writing a lot of pieces on war, but I decided not to do all of them tonight on war because I would have ended up weeping soon. So here is another piece. However, this is a family wars poetica, and it is inspired from my own family and ancestry. And I did find some information on the internet that from the beginning of the US, the founding in 1776 to the present, the US has had only really about 20 years of peace. My family's fought in every war, every alley and every sally since the Revolutionary. I could be a DAR or a DAC, a daughter of every damned unforgotten war. It's clear. It's become customary. Since there's always another reason to start a new military season. But I do not believe in war. I've seen the photos, smiling faces in the uniforms, so proud, but that is not the story that ends up in a shroud. That is not the tale that a survivor lives to tell. I've got a great who fought in the Spanish-American War. Maybe you never heard of that. Always another war. My dad had an uncle who was gassed in World War I, then spent his life tinkering in the garage, totally dumb. Great Uncle Woody, young and dashing, died in the Battle of the Bulge. My own great-grandpa fought in the trenches, saw things that he could never mention, could not get over those, gassed himself, God bless, left 5 children and a wife who never got over that distress. My cousin's husband signed up underaged at only 15 years, fought in Korea, fought his fears, never got over that. A broken body, many injuries and tears. For years slept every night with a gun on his chest, ready for anything that ought to be addressed, but only in his mind's tight fist. The gun and all was just imaginary. Cousins Johnny and Michael and his brother Billy Tom fought in Vietnam. They all came back, but Tom, he's never been the same again. I do not see the progress. It is hidden deep from me. I see the many dead. I see the terrible injuries. Do you see the reason in all these military seasons? I'm talking to my relatives and the so-called enemies. My brother was a keen Marine sent to Kuwait in the Gulf War scene. The war Americans watched on TV as stars flying in the dark night sky. Oohed and ahhed, so pretty to see the light show. But someone was bombed in each glow. A cousin's husband flew a bomber for the US Navy, flying over the sea to hit Afghanis and Iraqis. And wars promised to be over faster than you could say Red Rover, leaving everything prim and proper. But resulting regimes have not been the cream foreseen. And the wars, of course, went on and on and on. I do not believe in war. Like grandmother Margaret Ann Kelly said, why does there always have to be another war? So as I said, a number of these are from South Africa, and this last and longer poem was written in South Africa in October 2023, as I faced many different directions, happenings, and tried to get all that to put together. This is called When the Wars Come Marching Back. I sit in a country where apartheid was once the law, where apartheid began a civil war. I sit here while war begins in another country, where apartheid is an accusation. But in this poem, where the weather is beautiful, revenge is off the table. My grandfather, meanwhile, as he fell from the sky, the B-24 exploding nearby, quite clearly he saw the face of his 5-year-old daughter. As he fell from the sky, his parachute upside down, quite clearly he saw the green of the field. As he fell from the sky, burnt hands clawing the chute open, quite clearly he saw the hands of his wife. I sit in a country where Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, where Mandela believed in forgiveness. So in this poem, revenge is off the table. My grandfather, meanwhile, as he fell from the sky, quite nearly he saw the old black walnut tree in the dry creek bed. As he fell from the sky, quite nearly he saw he and his brother trapping ringtail. As he fell from the sky, quite nearly he saw the sheep grazing out in the pasture. I sit in a country where 12 million are in dire need of housing. But Nelson Mandela believed in reconciliation. So in this poem, revenge is off the table. My grandfather, meanwhile, as he fell from the sky, heard the crash of his plane. Quite dearly, he saw the faces of his crew. As he fell from the sky, quite dearly, he heard the song of the mourning dove. As he fell from the sky, landed in a tree quite dearly, he heard his own voice pray words that he'd forgotten. I sit in a country where millions go hungry every day. But Nelson Mandela believed in the equality of all. So in this poem, revenge is off the table. My grandfather, meanwhile, after he fell from the sky, met the faces of farmers brandishing pitchforks. And quite clearly, he felt the solid ground beneath his feet. After he fell from the sky, witnessed German officers save him from the farmers. And quite clearly, he felt his own heart beat strongly. After he fell from the sky, came face to face with the pilot who downed his plane. And quite clearly, he saw himself standing on a hill in a shower of radiant light. I sit in a country where apartheid was once legal, but Nelson Mandela championed peace and human dignity. And now people walk forward down the road. So revenge is off the table. I sit in this country while in another country war wages and philosophies not in accord with Mandela's. My grandfather, meanwhile, after he fell from the sky, after he was a prisoner of war, after he was freed, quite clearly asked God why he survived when so many did not. Years went by before he heard the answer. You survived in order to practice believing. The weather is beautiful. And revenge is off the table. Thank you very much.
What an ending about surviving to just realize that the weather is beautiful, to be present and to be appreciative of life, and that revenge is off the table. I'll stop the recording in a second. I love the lines, walk the road knowing the paths will connect. That's quite a faith in itself, realizing that you'll get there eventually, you will. And this line, they'll arrive with a boat from the future. That's quite startling. And you have this lovely line in that one. There will be room for your spirit. You're offering what a lovely conundrum, space for spirit. All right. Well, thank you so much. If anyone wants to open up their mic and give Laura a hand and say a comment, that'd be great.
Laura, what a beautiful prayer for peace. Thank you. Really exquisite.
Ooh, breathtaking.
Nice.
So moving. Thank you.
I did a lot in the chat, Laura, so I'm not going to say much, but you can't write poems like that if you're not invested, and we feel that, and it's they're very powerful.